I'm here to talk to you all about economic sustainability and creating prosperous livelihoods. Many of the items that we consume and that we use every day traverse complex supply chains. They're produced by hardworking people in widely diverse parts of the world. Take cocoa, or cotton in my shirt, coffee, or spices. These are all products that are grown by hardworking producers and then travel a path from farmer to processor to exporter and importer to manufacturer, finally to a retailer. Now my expertise is coffee. And coffee is a great stand-in for a lot of these products that have these complex supply chains. In the case of coffee, this is a coffee shrub. It's grown in mountainous places in the developing world, in the tropics. It's a crop that takes a lot of investment. It takes a lot of pruning, mulching, composting throughout the year. And then once a year, over a 2 to 3 month season, farmers harvest their crop. This farmer might pass by her tree 2 or 3 times a week, collecting the ripe coffee cherries that you see. And these cherries that produce the specialty high-quality coffee that we all are so lucky to have here in Portland comes to about 10 pounds from one coffee tree. That 10 pounds of fruit gives us 1 pound in a bag of roasted coffee. So something to think about when, like, my gosh, you knock over a bag of coffee and spill it. And what the farmer earns from all of that work, from that 1 pound of coffee, is about $1.43. I mean, this fluctuates in the market. But it's an awful lot of work, 10 pounds of fruit for $1.43. And those low incomes are compounded by the fact that most coffee is produced by smallholder coffee farmers. In the case of this farm in Rwanda you're looking across the valley at, each one of those plots might be a family's entire farm. And if we look in Central America, when we talk about a smallholder farmer, we're looking at 1.5 to 3 hectares of land, so about 3 to 6 acres. And the average farm might have 2,400 coffee trees. So if we just do a little bit of math with that $1.43 per pound that one tree is producing, that farmer, coffee might be their only cash crop, might only earn $3,500 in 1 year. And then when we travel around the world and start looking in places like East Africa, in Rwanda, with the last coffee census, for example, they counted 72 million coffee trees across about 400,000 coffee farms, which means that the average size of a farm in Rwanda is 183 trees. The income that farmer can earn from their coffee, this might be their only cash crop, is about $260 a year. So really less than $1 a day. So I spent the last year living and working in Rwanda, working with these farmers, working alongside them, seeking opportunities for them to increase their income. These are really vibrant, really hardworking, really smart business people that just don't have an opportunity to truly thrive. So when I think about sustainability in this context, in some ways it's kind of a bad word, because if we're simply sustaining a system that's already so broken into the future, that's not really doing us or these producers any good. So I like to think about opportunities for these farmers to thrive and truly prosper. So I ask myself the question, how can these producers have the same opportunity to engage in the marketplace and to realize the same prosperity as others that are engaged in the coffee business? And that includes the cafes that prepare and serve the coffee that we drink, the roasting companies that are roasting this coffee and bringing it all to our local markets, and the exporters and importers that are moving this coffee all around the world. These farmers should have exactly the same opportunity to prosper, the same opportunity at the middle class as those of us do here consuming the coffee. But the cards are stacked against them. In coffee's traditional supply chain, it's an opaque system. We have the farmer at one end, we have a retailer at the other end, but the farmer's access to the market really stops at a site collector, sometimes called a coyote, someone who just shows up at their farm, pays them a cash payment for their coffee, and disappears. They don't know where it goes. A lot of the farmers that I met in Rwanda didn't even know that it was a beverage that was consumed. So it's a broken system. So I went to work for a company that was founded on repairing this system, a company called Sustainable Harvest. We're a coffee importer here in the US, and our founder developed something called the relationship coffee model, which you see here. In this model, it's a system. The farmer's an equal player. They're not just a link in a chain. And that's important because coffee is complicated. It's a global commodity. It's traded like oil. People speculate with coffee that are never have any intention of buying coffee. And I mean, it's one of the most heavily traded commodities in the globe. This just shows coffee prices over the last 6 months. And they fluctuated between almost $1.50 down to almost $1.10 earlier this week. So a system that the buyers know how to play. The buyers know how to get those options and make those calls and play price risk management schemes. If a farmer doesn't know how to play that same game, that's a broken system. And along the same lines, there's coffee quality. If a farmer doesn't know how to taste their coffee, doesn't know how to evaluate their coffee, that puts all the control in the buyer's hands. The buyer can say your coffee's high quality or low quality. Your coffee's worth this price or that price. When a farmer's locked out of that system, that's inequitable. And government agencies and coffee-producing countries have worked to address this inequity. They'll set minimum prices that farmers need to be paid for their coffee cherries, or minimum prices that the green coffee, as it's exported, needs to sell for. And we're all familiar with the certifications that are out there in the world on the bags of coffee that we buy. All great attempts at starting to define a better and more equitable price for farmers. But it's really not enough. So based on the relationship coffee model, we see a lot of coffee companies now developing direct trade models. Models where the coffee roaster, the buyer, engages in a relationship and knows the farmer. Where the farmer has a chance to build a relationship with their buyers. And this is great. As a farmer, I know who's purchasing my coffee. I have a reliable volume of coffee that I can sell every year. I can plan, I can anticipate. And same thing for the roaster. The roaster loves this model because they get great relationships, great stories, but they also have a reliable supply of coffee. They know that they're less likely to be defaulted on contracts for coffees and things like that. And that can lead to higher quality. When we have higher quality, reliable volumes, and that relationship, there's an opportunity for farmers to earn more. Because it's not just about the exchange of goods, it's about building relationships. It's about sharing knowledge. I mean, part of prosperity is having access to knowledge, having the opportunity to grow. And in the relationship coffee model, that's what we have. We have information sharing. We bring everybody into the room together. So it's not just a farmer and their buyer, but we'll get that exporter in the room. We'll get that coffee retailer in the room. We'll even bring in government and NGOs and philanthropy and others that are engaged in this global trade to participate and sit at the table as equals. And that's where we give farmers a chance to actually earn more because they see increased yields and they see increased quality in their coffee. Now, in 2013 and 14, Cornell University studied this model, the relationship coffee model, and they defined it as exactly what I was just saying. It's a system where there's transparency, there's relationships with the buyers and sellers, and it's based on quality and transparency. And it works. In the relationship coffee model, 77% of coffee farmers know who's buying their coffee. We see sustainability improvements, more use of water-saving technology, more use of organic compost and materials, and more compost being created on the farms. And all of those things lead to improved quality coffee. Now, in the traditional farming model, and this study was conducted in Colombia with some producers we work with, they identified some problems. Food security is a big problem in coffee. Imagine if you were only earning a couple $1,000s a year. You got that payment once a year. 6 months goes on, how are you going to eat? So one of the things they found was not a lot of farmers are growing their own food on the farm, and they don't want their children going into coffee farming. I mean, I've been showing some photos of farmers, and they're getting older. Most farmers are in their 60s. And the yields are low, less than 1,000 kilograms per farm in Colombia in the study. But when you look at relationship coffee farms, you see 15% of farmers are growing more than half the food they consume themselves. Most of them want their kids to enter farming. I love coffee. I want to make sure that there's people there to grow it in 10 years' time, 20 years' time. And then you see other benefits as well. The yields increase, and you also see environmental impact. There's greater bird diversity, more tree diversity, and greater forest coverage on the coffee farm. So when you just look at them side by side, the benefits are clear. With relationship coffee, we have greater transparency, more sustainability, and improved quality. So when we have those relationships, we have improved yields, and we have improved quality, we can start taking a look at this bag of coffee and thinking about it a little bit differently. There's an opportunity for a second payment. That's that 18% that you see there. Second payment would be after the harvest, after the coffee's purchased. If the quality comes in high, if the prices come in high, there's a chance to reward the farmers with the second payment to accommodate that. But I think there's a chance to do even more. When we think about this bag of coffee at New Seasons, a pound of coffee is what, $15, $20 maybe? That's still a really small portion that's going to the farm. What if we can return more? So we set out and we developed a system called premium sharing rewards, where farmers are able to accrue points as they're participating in relationship coffee farming. At the end of the season, as we're returning more of the profits from that coffee that's actually sold, the farmers can exchange them for assets. These are people that live in remote areas, areas that are challenging and difficult to get products to. Even if you have cash in hand, you can't buy even a pair of pruning shears or a garden hoe. So when we ask farmers, what do you want? They say, solar lights. These are small lights. It gets dark in the tropics at 5 o'clock. Kids can't study. It's hard to cook. So solar lights were a life changer. But they also wanted garden tools, just tools to help them farm so they don't have to share a pair of pruning shears with their neighbors. And cell phones, cheap, small SMS phones just to keep in touch with their sister who might live 2 valleys over, but it takes half a day to walk to. But we wanted to do even more. It's great that we're connecting these coffee roasters, the buyers, to the coffee farmers that are selling and growing the coffee. But my question was, what if we can connect coffee consumers, those of you that are buying and drinking coffee, and create an opportunity for, with your purchases, to give back even more to the coffee farmers? So we set out and we created a consumer brand. We're lucky we have New Seasons here. They're a great supporter. So we launched Question Coffee. Right? We're an importer. We do green coffee. Roasting is new to us. But we thought there was a chance to take 100% of the net proceeds when we sell a bag of coffee and return them to farmers like Asteri. She's a president of a cooperative in Rwanda called Nyaminga. So when someone buys a bag of this coffee, or even a cup of the coffee brewed in a cafe, that's where we get closer to returning that $2 of the value directly to the coffee farmers. So that these folks aren't just sustaining a livelihood, but they're actually thriving, growing, and prospering as the business people engaged in this global coffee community. Thank you.